Hello everybody and welcome back to the Fintech Times. We're here at Sibos 2022 here in really lovely Amsterdam. The sun hasn't joined us today, so it's a bit of cloudy skies outside, but more than happy to be here. And today we're joined by Liliana Fratini Passi, the Managing Director of CBI. We're very happy to have you with us. Liliana, how are you?
Thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me to have this wonderful experience today with you. I'm the Managing Director of CBI. I'm also the Vice Chair of UNCFACT and the Italian Delegates of ISO 20022 Registration Management Group. So quite involved in standardization activity as well.
Wonderful.
CBI can be identified as an industry utility representing the financial sector. Roughly, we have almost 400 financial institutions as shareholders and customers. CBI is the company that promotes innovation and delivered centralized application to ease the communication between banks, fintechs, and third parties providers. Over the last years, we enter into the open banking, open finance scenario, delivering interesting application, in particular CBI Globe, in order to meet the expectation required by the Payment Service Directive 2 legislation, to meet the requirement imposed by this PSD2 for the banks. And so starting from that point, now we are able to leverage and to push the financial sector to enlarge their business occasion with value-added services, in particular leveraging the API technology. It's also nice to say that CBI can be considered a fintech of a long history, of 30 years of history, coming from this very strong collaboration gained and pushed with the financial industry, the Italian financial industry, to develop the interbank corporate banking services used by more than 3 million of corporates. So starting from this experience so far, we are also a company with a strong collaboration with the national authority, with the Bank of Italy, not only because we are oversight by the Bank of Italy, but in particular because we are the entry point, or we support the national authority in addressing the main relevant aspect in terms of definition of standards, use case, and help the community in be integrating, overcoming the fragmentation of the financial environments due to this innovation of the digital ecosystem.
Fantastic. Well, what an introduction to CBI. Thank you very much for that introduction. We've at the Fintech Times, we spent a lot of time last month talking about fintech ecosystems and about what being part of one is like, what are the benefits, what are the drawbacks, what are fintech ecosystems generally trying to achieve. And I realized that CBI actually has the CBI Globe, which is like its own sort of ecosystem of members, of innovators and businesses within the financial industry. Why might a company want to join the CBI Globe? And more importantly, what would surprise them about their membership?
Yes, as I told you before, CBI comes from a long history, 30 years of history of collaborating in the Italian financial sector. But over the last years, we are even more looking abroad, developing services which are able to have not only Italian banks, but all fintechs willing to bridge the Italian banks and their customers. So I would say our capability is to perform with a strong governance, innovation through collaboration. As you can imagine, all the innovation based on network economy has to face an issue, which means create the community, the ecosystem, because the value of the innovation is not in itself, but is in the number of actors using and supporting a typical service. So our capability is to identify new function business cases, the standards, the semantic, and identify the community, and then identify in the short and mid run a sort of path through which all the actors are reachable with a common infrastructure, with a common standard, a semantic dialogue, to ease this fintech and third parties provider communication with incumbent the traditional banks. Now we are seeing that also due to this environment, legal environment, which is changing very fast, collaboration is a must, because we as the financial sector, we have to support the banks in overcoming these challenges deriving from the legal framework, but also because we have to implement instruments, technological instruments, new services, helping the financial sector to collaborate with the fintechs and maybe to compete against the big tech.
Fantastic. Well, it's a very interesting dynamic that CBI, and especially CBI Globe, presents to the financial industry. I mean, the company is backed by decades worth of experience, and in that time you've seen the requirements of the industry change and evolve in line with customer dynamics. I'm wondering, from your perspective as managing director, have you noticed any trends emerging in what your customers and clients, and more specifically the ecosystem, demands?
Well, what it is possible to immediately notice is that we have, first of all, the challenge and the push of the technology innovation. Now, with the rise of the application programming interface technology, it means that there is a new way of create and deliver on the market service. It means that now the financial sector is in the capability to monetize the data, the information they are inside, and to create a new business area. But in doing that, we all know that everything starting from the Payment Service Directive 2, which obliged the financial industry, the banking sector, through the open banking application, to put the information through API and to help third parties provider in organize services to the customers. And thanks to this push, of course, emerging from the legal framework, the European legal framework, now we are seeing that, the financial sector is still trying to identify new functionalities, new value-added services in order to create this ecosystem. So a large number of banking offering a kind of services, and a large number of third parties providers asking for those services for their and the users. But in doing that, we need to solve the problem of fragmentation, from the problem of standardization, and the problem of infrastructure. Also, bear in mind the question of cybersecurity. So those challenges are on the table, and CBI is trying to back the financial sector in looking ahead in the innovation path, considering that as an industry utility, we try to identify new business cases to identify a common path through which the ecosystem could follow this innovation process. Having a strong consideration that when we talk about service related to a network economy approach, it means that you need a significant number of banks offering a kind of service. Otherwise, the value of the service itself doesn't exist. Exists in respect of the number offering a kind of services, in respect of the integration and standardization supported by the value-added services. So this is a relevant aspect, and CBI is able to contribute in this collaborative innovation approach, also because as industry utility, we have a close collaboration with the Bank of Italy, not only because we are oversight, but in particular because we, thanks to the CBI Globe ecosystem, now we interconnect more than 300 payment service providers in Italy, representing the 80% of the market share. And so in this context, we have a strong capability to push innovation with these environments. Of course, we should also take into account what the European Commission is driving to address problems such as fragmentation, to address innovation in a current way. We all know that some directives are on the tables. We are waiting for the Payments Service Directive 3, and other directives are coming, aiming the ambition to foster this digital innovation in the finance sector.
That was a really fascinating answer, and one thing that you touched upon in your answer was this sort of need for better infrastructure, and specifically cybersecurity you mentioned. I was just wondering, in terms of CBI's own infrastructure, you've recently migrated to the cloud, and it's a journey that's sort of ongoing. Can you give us a bit of an insight into why the migration to the cloud was necessary, and also what benefits will your customers and then their customers see?
Yes, well, our board of directors, our top management, implied a lot of time in making this very strong decision, which is, of course, the idea to have a common private cloud hosting all the infrastructure through which CBI offer, I repeat, in a B2B2C perspective, so offer their customers, the banks, financial institutions, the infrastructure, centralized application for interbank corporate banking, or the electronic bill presentment and payment in Italy, which is called CBIL, or all the recent services based on the open banking, open finance environments, so API, based on API. And in looking ahead, we of course understood that it was important for us to embrace this new private cloud technology for all the application managed by CBI, because banks need to be absolutely absolutely, faster in their innovation process. It is important to give them the opportunity to deliver on the market, corporate and consumer, in a shorter time, reduce the time of the chain of the payments and the document exchange. And the cloud was, a relevant aspect for the capability of the financial sector to foster and to reduce time in the innovation process. But on the same time, it was important because through this cloud, we will able to reduce costs for the banking sector in the innovation process. So not only to be faster, but also to have all the capex to contain in a shared way all the investment costs for the financial sector. Enabling them the possibility to scale up their business. So once they have the opportunity to enlarge the customers, they are able through this cloud to overcome and to offer in a huge quantity services in a faster and a costly way to the market.
You've really hit the nail on the head there, Liliana. I think, we've looked a lot at the benefits of the cloud, and it's really refreshing to actually see it in practice, and seeing how it's really managed to shape your services and help the people that you seek to serve. So I think it's a really, really fascinating topic, and I'm sure one that will be discussed at length here at Sibos this week. In terms of, CBI is really at the forefront of the European financial industry, and you've obviously working with a lot of other players in the industry. You've spoken about the network effect and this sort of need for cross collaboration. I'm just wondering, in light of all of that, what's next for CBI?
Yes, thank you for this question. A lot of stuff to manage, but I'm very proud in my position of a general manager to say that CBI is now working very hard, maybe according three different pillars. Well, first of all, imagine new value-added services, which are, the instruments, the way through which the financial sector is able to offer their customers new services based on open banking model. And so, for instance, we have now already in place the cross-border IBAN check. It is. I'm very proud of these services born in Italy in 2020 to support the public administration in help those citizens hit by the pandemic crisis and to receive fiscal support. Well, starting from that side now, at that time we decided to enlarge the service to the corporates, but the ambition now through the cross-border IBAN check is to give the opportunity of a customers of a bank to have a check validation between the fiscal code and the IBAN. So it means to avoid any kind of mismatch or any error in the credit transfer processing and initiation activity. So it is these services comes from a strong collaboration with SurePay, and so it is also a pleasure for us because now we are seeing our capability as industry utility also useful for other subjects, other fintech willing to enter in the Italian market, having CBI organized from a technology and use cases and business point of view. A very large number, the 80% of the market in CBI Globe, so a very large of financial institutions reachable by other fintech. And so, aside of the cross-border IBAN check, we also have the name check validation, which is a very similar service aiming and giving the possibility for a consumer to check through the name and the correspondence of the IBAN. So it is very useful when you don't have the fiscal code. Aside that, we are ready to deliver to the market the onboarding process. So the onboarding means to simplify the onboarding process for a customer willing to maybe ask for a service online and avoiding him to compile, to fulfill all the information relating to himself. And thanks to a digital connection between the corporates and the end user bank, those information are provided by the banks to the corporates without the data entered by the end user. And so this can give a great value for the user, because it avoids to fulfill personally the personal data, the information, avoided errors and other value from the corporates, because they receive information from the bank of the customers already verified according to the Know Your Customer process, so with a strongness and with reliable of all those information. Now we are working with the sandbox of the Bank of Italy in order to develop through a proof of concept the invoice centralized database to help the banks, the financial sector, to avoid any double finance invoicing. So it means that we help the banks in pre-check if an invoice has been already financed, and so avoiding double finance, avoiding those situations that of course can prevent fraud and maybe some double finance that can expose the banks to negative situation. These are, of course, several services we are now delivering to the market, but on the other side, we are working, considering CBI as a marketplace of API, so we can help fintechs in promoting those API, delivering through the centralized application based on cloud of CBI, deliver those API to the financial market. So we also can leverage the distribution of API of functions of other subjects. So we are now working in this context, also looking at the public administration as one of the most relevant subjects, leveraging the market and the distribution of those innovations.
Well, that's a fantastic answer. It sounds like you're very, very busy at CBI at the moment and into next year as well. But you're in the perfect environment to meet like-minded companies. There's so many in Sibos as well. So I hope you're having a fantastic time.
Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Yes.
And
yes,
enjoy as well your Sibos.
Yes, thank you. Well, Liliana Fratini Passi, Managing Director of CBI. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.